Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Thank you so much for being here. So I am currently in a bit of a dilemma in the sense that I don't really know what to read next because yesterday morning I finished Don't Let the Forest In by CJ Drews, which was my first book that I read in 2025. And that book completely blew me out of the water. It was so good. And I just stared at the wall after finishing it because I truly didn't know what to pick up next. So I thought it's going to be a fun idea to just let you guys chime in on Instagram. I posted 4 books for you to vote what should be my next read, and I'm gonna read that book in this video. Also later I wanna go to grab some coffee and also to the bookstore to buy a record. So this is the plan for this video. In no particular order, the books that I have posted on Instagram for you to choose between: The Ministry of Time by Callian Bradley. This is very popular and a lot of people are raving about this book. I know it's a bit controversial because of the subject matter, but we will see if this is chosen. An Education in Malice by St. Gibson. I have picked this book up on release day, and since then I heard that it's not that great, so I kind of postponed reading it. Next, I picked up All Fours by Miranda July. Again, picked this one on release day, and I keep postponing reading it. I don't know why, because I'm very excited to actually get to this one. Fourth Wing. I need a motivator to pick this book up because I know I said that I want to read it before the end of 2024, and as you can see, I didn't do that. I have to be in a very specific mood to read it, and I don't know if this is the right moment for me, but if this is going to be chosen, I'm just gonna read it, I guess. Okay, so let's quickly look at the votes. In 4th place, Fourth Wing, very fitting, with 10%, and then very surprising, An Education in Malice with 12%. I thought that An Education in Malice is going to be picked up last, but apparently not. And then on 2nd place, All Fours by Miranda July with 29%. And in 1st place, The Ministry of Time with 49%. What was really interesting was that I was looking at the votes yesterday as people were voting, and The Ministry of Time and All Fours were very close. They were neck and neck, and for the majority of time they were having equal votes. And I don't know what happened throughout the night, but the Ministry of Time won with almost half of the votes, which is again a sign that a lot of people like this book, or it's very bad and a lot of people want me to read it, which I don't think is the case, but I guess we'll see. So The Ministry of Time, all I know about this book is that it has something to do with time travel. I guess they're going back in time to bring to the present some historical figures. Let's actually read what it says on the jacket. So, a boy meets a girl, the past meets the future, a finger meets a trigger, the beginning meets the end, England is forever, England must fall. In the near future, a disaffected civil servant is offered a lucrative job in a mysterious new government ministry gathering expats from across history to test the limits of time travel. Her role is to work as a bridge, living with, assisting, and monitoring the expat known as 1847 Commander Graham Gore. Is it Gore or Gore? I think it's Gore. Graham Gore. As far as history is concerned, Commander Gore died on Sir John Franklin's doomed expedition to the Arctic, so he's a little disoriented to find himself alive and surrounded by outlandish concepts such as a washing machine, Spotify, and the collapse of the British Empire. With an appetite for discovery and a 7-a-day cigarette habit, he soon adjusts. And during a long, sultry summer, he and his bridge move from awkwardness to genuine friendship to something more. But as the true shape of the project that brought them together begins to emerge, Gore and the bridge are forced to confront their past choices and imagined futures. Can love triumph over the structures and histories that have shaped them? And how do they defy history when history is living in your house? I guess Commander Graham Graham Gore is like a real historical figure. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. It sounds very interesting, but let's see how it is executed. Also, I wanted to show you, I'm gonna try to do this with one hand, but I have the the collector's edition of this book. Wait, hold on. It has some quotes, I assume, on the front and on the back, which look really, really cool in this silver foiling. It has like one of these ribbon bookmarks, sprayed edges, which is just like a color. I don't really care for that. But then this specific edition is also signed by the author, which is really, really cool. So I hope I'm going to enjoy this one at least. And on the end papers, we have this ship, which I assume it's supposed to be the ship that Graham Gore was commanding at that time in the 1800s. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to go grab a coffee and I'm going to see you later as I'm making some progress with the Ministry of Time. See you in a bit.
Sitting in the basement apartment I rented with you, remembering the holiday party we had with the crew. Romeo was roaming the garden, Saturday was spent in a parking lot, gave it all we got. It was so with you. Following the leader down 8th Street to get what we can. Crawl up the walls, make a few calls to the man.
So I just got back home and I made quite a progress. I am now in the middle of chapter 3. I am currently at 24%, and I want to share my thoughts with you so far on the Ministry of Time. But first, let me actually show you what I got at the bookstore. So I was looking at this book at the new releases section, and I went back there 2 times to reread the synopsis of this one, or what it says on the back, because it sounded really interesting, and I decided to buy it. And that book is Glyph by Ellie Smith. And let me actually read to you what it says on the back. So, once upon a time, not very far from now, 2 children come home to find a line of wet red paint around the outside of their house. What does it mean? It's a truism of our time that it will be the next generation who will sort out our increasingly toxic world. What would that actually be like? In a state turned hostile, a world of insiders and outsiders, what things of the past can sustain them, and what shape can resistance take? And what's a horse got to do with any of this? Glyph is a novel about how we make meaning and how we are made meaningless. Glyph is a novel about how we make meaning and how we are made meaningless. With a nod to the traditions of dystopian fiction, a glance at the Kafkaesque, and a new take on the notion of classic, it's a moving and electrifying read, a vital and prescient tale of the versatility and variety deep-rooted in language, in nature, and in human nature. Also, the text size from this book is huge, and it only has like 270 pages or something like that. So I think I'll get through this one pretty fast. I was very intrigued by that synopsis, and I know Alice Smith is a very well-loved author. I haven't read anything from them, but I'm very excited to read Glyph eventually. And then in terms of the record that I wanted to get, I kept re-listening to Weed Killer by Ashnikko, and I saw that the bookstore that was very close to the coffee shop that I went to today had like a not special edition, I don't know what they're called, like one of those colorful editions of the vinyl of this record, and I would love to listen to this one on my record player. So I decided to go there and buy it. This is how it looks actually. Wait, I don't know if it will fit in the shot. So this is how the album artwork looks like, and then ooh, okay. Okay. Oh, wow. This is kind of like an insert from the I hope it's going to focus because this is very shiny. It has all of the lyrics on it. Huh, this is very interesting. It reminds me of like old school Taylor Swift CDs that all had those like capitalized letters, and we would like figure out the like hidden meaning from the songs and all that. It's very cool to see that again. And then let's see how the actual record looks like. Ooh, okay. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick this up. There we go. But it has this marble-like texture to it. This was actually like cheaper than the like standard black vinyl edition. So I decided to go with this one, and it looks very, very cool. I cannot wait to actually play it on my record player. And yeah. Let's go back to the Ministry of Time. So from what I read so far, the action of this book is set in the near future when the British government kind of has figured out time travel. And I was very curious to see how they explain like the physics of time travel, because usually it's either not acknowledged at all, or they have like a very convoluted explanation as to how it is possible. And in this one was explained, I think in the very first chapter, something along the lines of, yeah, like we figured out time travel, but there's like a lot of things that you have to understand for that. So we're not going to get into it. You don't have to worry about it, basically. I am happy with the fact that it was at least acknowledged, even though we didn't get an explanation for it, but at least it was acknowledged. As I was reading previously on the synopsis for this one, we are following our main character who, does she have a name? I don't think she has a name just yet. Or maybe she will not have a name, now that I think about it, because it actually kind of makes sense. So our main character is working at the Ministry of Time, and they just have discovered time travel. So they can basically travel through time, but they are not sure yet if it is safe for humans. So they want to go back in time at specific historical moments and bring back people that will eventually die in their timeline. So in this way, they are not disrupting the history, but because these people are already going to die in their timeline anyway, they are bringing them to the present in order to be their test subjects almost for time travel. And once they are brought back into the future, I guess it would be for them, back in the present, basically, they would have to undergo this period of acclimatization, or to get used to our modern times. We have 4 expats in total. Expats are the people that are brought back from their timeline. We have someone from the 1800s, which is the expat, or the person that our main character is supposed to take care of. We also have someone from the 1600s and another 2 expats that I don't really remember from when they are, from which timeline. And we are following our main character as she has to explain modern concepts to Commander Graham Gore. As they are getting closer, they start becoming friends, and it is very obvious that our main character is falling in love with him. My problem with this one so far, it feels, I don't know if I should say predatory, but it almost feels like grooming, because our main character is supposed to be like a mentor for Graham Gore, and I don't know what this will evolve into. The writing in this book is very funny and sometimes a bit like cliche or on the nose, or cheesy, I guess would be a more appropriate word for how the writing style is. There are also very funny moments in the way that Graham Gore is describing certain things from the present. He's describing all of the electronics as slaves powered by lightning. It's very fun so far. I am looking forward to read more of this. I understand there's like a plot twist at the end. We'll see how the story progresses, and I will update you when I have something else to say about the Ministry of Time. So a couple of days have passed since I started reading the Ministry of Time. I am currently on page 205. I am in the middle of chapter 6, and I wanted to update the vlog with, my thoughts on this book so far. I don't know if I said this in the previous clip, but when I started reading this book, I actually really enjoyed how descriptive the writing style was. And then I reached a point and it kind of went downhill from there. This book is handling certain different topics or subgenres of literature. I don't even know how to explain this, but basically this is at its base like a sci-fi dystopian kind of book, because we have time travel, and we very soon find out that the things at the ministry are not what they seem. So that is one thing. And then on top of that, we are also exploring our main character's struggle with generational trauma and individual trauma. The fact that she's half Cambodian on her mom's side, and her father is white, and she herself is white passing, and just her overall struggles with that as she's navigating her identity. I very much wish that this book would explore this trauma of the main character more, because I felt like those were really the moments in this book where I really connected with our main character, because in the majority of the time she's kind of insufferable and a bit passive for my liking. We also have the subplot of a romance between our main character, the Bridge, and Graham Gore, who is the expat from the story. It is so weird to me that this main character is thirsting over Graham when he very clearly has unprocessed trauma from his experience with the time travel, and also with what he went through in his original timeline. It is true that the main character is acknowledging the fact that this is not ethical or moral, and she should consult someone at the ministry about that. I guess she's self-aware, but in the same time, she's doing everything in her power for Graham to acknowledge her as a girl, quote unquote. Now, my main issue with this book is actually with the writing style and the choices that are made. Let me read you some examples of this so we can understand what I'm alluding to. The next evening, I went to meet her at the pub she had suggested, an old-fashioned watering hole close to the ministry, pokey and bizarrely foggy and upholstered in leather. It was like being inside the elbow of a patched jumper. What does it mean to be inside of the elbow of a patched jumper? Couldn't tell you. Another example is specifically about the word fog. So just to put this into context, she says at the beginning of the book, Gore's weapon of choice was charm. I had limited experience of charm, that twinkly old-fashioned thing that afflicts the eccentric, and my bruised defenses against similar attributes didn't work because Gore's charm was undirected. I might as well have tried to catch fog in a jar. This is an example of writing that works because catching fog in a jar is pretty much impossible, so it makes sense for her to say that. But then again, also with the word fog on page 201, it says, "So I wrote report after report, sat through interrogation after interrogation with my heart clear and gray like rinsed fog." How can you rinse fog, and what rinsed fog means? I don't know. I don't know. Another example that is questionable at best. He had a presence as mild as salad. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? Her skin was fair and bright like an expensive moisturizer. I'm sorry, what? What? Like an expensive moisturizer that is fair and bright? The wind shook me like a beetle in a matchbox. What is the beetle doing in a matchbox, and why are you comparing it to the wind? And then the last example that honestly made me question my whole existence. In deference to the weather, he had rolled up his shirt sleeves, and the erotic charge of his bare forearms was giving me a headache. Well, this book is giving me a headache. Yes, there are a lot of funny moments, and also, yes, there are a lot of cringe moments. I don't know if I'm excited to finish this. I'm at least curious to see where this journey will take us. I will go to read now and I will update the vlog again, hopefully when I will have finished this book, to let you know my overall opinions on this one. Okay, bye. Hi friends. So this morning I just finished The Ministry of Time by Kaylee Bradley. And unfortunately, the more I think about this book, the more I realize I didn't really like it that much. These, again, are just my very subjective thoughts. So if you actually enjoyed this one, I'm happy for you. Please don't be offended. Let's start with the things that I enjoyed from this book, actually. The time travel aspect of the plot was very interesting to me, and I was very curious to see how it will be handled. I liked the premise and where we went towards the end of this story. I didn't enjoy the ending per se, like the actual epilogue of this book. I think it was too open-ended and too happy, happy, joy, joy for my liking. But I did like the premise and the thing that happened towards the end of this book, let's say in the last two chapters. Another thing that I have enjoyed in The Ministry of Time is our main character's thoughts and opinions about her experience with generational trauma, the fact that she is mixed race and she's white passing, but in fact she is half Cambodian and half white. So she just went through a lot during her childhood, and she talks at large about that. I think that was well done because to me just felt like a self-insert of the author in those moments. Even the writing style felt a bit different. It was not as flowery and descriptive. It was very to the point. A fact that I appreciated because you will later see that the writing style was very bizarre in this book for me. Other than Graham, we have other two expats who are very important for this story. So we have Arthur, and then we also have Maggie. And I liked the almost found family vibes between the four of them, so the three expats and our main character. I just liked their interactions so much. When they would talk about the technology and the books and the history, I really, really liked that aspect of the story. And I just wish we would have concentrated more on those things and less on the other things, mainly the romance and the sex scenes. And that is a great segue because next up, I want to talk about my dislikes. Not things that I hated, because I don't think this book is horrible by any means. It's just things that I didn't particularly like. The main thing is, as I previously said, the writing style. My problem with the writing style is that it is so detailed and full of similes and metaphors that don't really make sense. Like, I don't understand what the author is trying to say with those, to the point where for me it was just distracting from the actual plot and the actual story. Like, I would read a paragraph and I would then read it again and I would stare at the wall trying to understand or make it make sense in my mind what the author was trying to say. The writing style wasn't necessarily for me. The romance made me feel very uneasy because their relationship is based on this power dynamic that is just very unbalanced. At the beginning, they start as being very flirtatious towards each other, and our main character has some weird thoughts. Let's just say there's a specific scene with um, how he rolls up his sleeves and she's just like having a headache because she likes his forearms so much. And then afterwards, the sex scenes. The sex scenes were a lot, like a lot. And let me actually read you something because I have specifically underlined this too, to read it to you. He wouldn't let me go down on him for weeks after we started sleeping together. And even then, I had to do it with the lights out, snuffling about like a Randy anteater. And I swear to God, I didn't make this up. This is actually like written in the book, which is just like a Randy Anteater. Randy Anteater. So yeah, yeah, that happened. Also, speaking of hooking up, I think after the first time they were hooking up, our main character was very pushy towards Graham to disclose to her if he was a virgin, if he had sex with other women or men on his ship and stuff like that. And he was dodging these questions a lot, and she was insisting. Then again, it just didn't need to happen. And I don't see the point of that conversation anyway, because it's not important. We know from the beginning that Maggie is a lesbian, and there is a specific scene where our main character is sexualizing Maggie in like a really weird way, talking about her breasts that came out of nowhere and led to nowhere because it was never addressed. Like, why was that necessary? Also, there is another bridge working at the ministry. Her name, I think, is Semelia, if I'm not mistaken, and she is a black woman. So every single time our main character would talk to this other bridge, their conversation was really cringe on the main character's part. I feel like it took me a longer time to read this just because of how distracted I was with the writing style and the choices that were made with this book. But nonetheless, as I said, this is not a horrible book. I think this can work for other people. Maybe if you have a different taste than mine, I think you would really enjoy this book. If you typically like to read romance, I think again you could potentially end up liking this book. Thank you so much to everyone that voted and recommended this book. I had a somewhat okay time reading it. And yeah, this is the end of the video. Please let me know in the comments down below what other type of videos do you want to see from me on this channel. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.